So recently, the Biden administration announced that it was supporting ConocoPhillips' oil drilling project in Alaska, a project that was previously backed by the Trump administration. The Biden administration Interior Department announced that it would be defending the project, which is currently held up in court, despite objections last year from Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, who voiced concerns about the project. This, despite these comments from Biden during an October debate. During the debate, he said, quote, "We have a moral obligation to deal with climate change and global warming, and we're told by all the leading scientists in the world we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. He also brags about how he got environmental and labor organizations to endorse his climate plan and called it a job-creating program. He also mentioned how we eventually need to phase away from oil and call renewable energies the future. And recently, in his budget, he proposed, quote, sweeping overhaul of U.S. infrastructure and pour money into education and climate action. Meanwhile, he's supporting a project that, quote, is anticipated to have a peak production in excess of 160,000 barrels of oil per day over its 30-year life, producing approximately 586 million barrels of oil. And on top of that, well, just to say the least, ConocoPhillips doesn't exactly have the greatest record when it comes to environmental protection. Now, why is Biden doing this in this case if he claims that he wants to move away from fossil fuels and to tackle climate change aggressively? Well, as the old saying goes, follow the money. Yep, during his campaign for president, Biden took thousands of dollars from ConocoPhillips executives, including their CTO and COO. Additionally, D.E. Shaw is a hedge fund that is heavily invested in ConocoPhillips. Biden took collectively over $100,000 from their founder, David E. Shaw. And thankfully, there are a lot of climate groups that are speaking out and saying they're pissed at Biden for doing this. In fact, Earth Justice has criticized Biden for not prioritizing the needs of the Native American community that will be negatively impacted by this. And several Native Americans and indigenous peoples have spoken out against this, saying it's a threat to their very ways of life. The oil and gas industry has a long history of discriminating against the indigenous peoples. In fact, the Supreme Court ruled in 2020 that half of Oklahoman land is indigenous territory. This half is rich for oil production and pipelines, and as a result, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt created a commission to determine the direction of the state following the ruling. And who did he have chair the commission? An oil and gas industry executive. And even Dune Lunkard, a president of the Native Conservancy Cordova in Alaska, has talked about how Native Alaskans have been victims of the oil industry's greed. Quote, politicians in Washington who see Alaska Native corporations supporting oil and gas drilling in Alaska certainly get a distorted view of how indigenous communities really feel about industry exploiting our natural resources. Most tribes want smart environmental stewardship, not the corporate values that have been forced on us by deals cut in D.C. Alaska tribes, similar to many indigenous tribes worldwide, have been intentionally stripped of their traditional way of life, values, and subsistence rights on their ancestral lands. Why? Because our ancestral lands are rich in oil, minerals, timber, and other natural resources and have been used by corporate, state, and federal powers to divide our tribal communities. And this is Biden turning it back on the Native American community that helped him greatly win this election. And it's to the point now where this is potentially a pattern for Biden. This isn't just a one-off thing, but it's him backtracking on his climate promises. Biden is extending bipartisan talks with his ongoing infrastructure plan, which is problematic because the Republicans don't want to do anything regarding climate change. Even Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg admits this. So this is, needless to say, unacceptable that Biden's doing this. He's not only giving one of the biggest corporate polluters what they want, but he's also selling out the Native Americans who helped get him elected, and he's actively pouring fuel on our already burning planet. So if he wants to tackle climate change, he cannot say that he wants to do that and do this at the same time, needless to say. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe for more. Click here to check out my last 2 videos. I'll see you all next time. Peace.